everybody please welcome to the stage Michele Nolte.
Well, hello, Elkin. I hope you're feeling well tonight. I have a story that I promised you last month about how I set the septic tank on fire. Now, nobody can make this story up. It's an old story that happened many, many years ago. Okay, the wheel had been invented and it was in general use, so it's not that old. I was living in a decrepit trailer in the back roads of Maine. There were maybe 3 or 4 houses along this road. It was paved. And to give you an idea of what the neighborhood was like, there was this little house and there was an older couple in it. And they had a couple of turkeys, Cleopatra and Moses. Well, the old lady passed and the children came up from Boston and put the gentleman in a nursing home. And they lived in the house for a little while with these 2 turkeys. Cleopatra used to like to take a nap in the middle of the road because it was warm. Well, one day the milk truck ran over her. So all there was Moses, and Moses became very unhappy and would harass people. So the son, who was living in the house with his family, got sick of this big old rooster. Nobody knew how old this turkey was, and decided they were going to have him for Sunday dinner. So they chopped his head off and baked him up. Now, anything that old has got to be tough. And I don't think they took more than 2 bites when they threw the carcass out and went to McDonald's. But that's just the way people were around there. Now, being a single parent, I had a teenage daughter. She was a senior in high school, pretty big, blonde, green-eyed, just lovely personality. Well, unbeknownst to me, she contacted her father, who signed for her to quit school, take her GEDs, and because she wanted more freedom and more control over her life, and she didn't want people bossing her around, she went in the Navy. Yeah. So there was nothing I could do. He had signed for her. Well, she went in the Navy, and when she got through, and this was towards the middle of the winter in Maine, and she went from Maine down to Florida for her basic training. You can imagine how rough that was. And then she went from Florida to California for her A school, and she hopped flights back to Maine. And she came in and she said, you know, 5 o'clock comes more than once a day. And when I was told to do something, I didn't have any choice into when I did it. I had to do it right then and there. Poor kid. And she said she got into trouble. She got called before the captain's mast, which is a long green felt-covered table. And she said he looked at me, and if he even heard my name, I would be going home. She must have done okay after that because she did her time. She came back home using the GI Bill, got a degree, her bachelor's degree, went on to get her master's degree, and had a pretty good job. This is just to give you a little background of what was going on in my life. So I'm living in this trailer all by myself, and some weird things started happening. I came in one day, and there was a loaf of bread on the floor. And I thought, I don't remember dropping it, but even back then my memory wasn't all that great. So I put the put the loaf of bread back together and put it inside the refrigerator this time instead of on top of it. And then a couple other weird things happened. So I'm asleep one night. I slept on my tummy with my hand kind of over the edge of the bed. And suddenly I felt something run across my hand. And I'm standing on the bed just shrieking and screaming and carrying on. And I see this rat run across my bedroom and through a crack in the dresser drawers, and it went out. And I went on screaming for a while. So I turned all the lights on in the house. I don't think I slept a wink the rest of the night. The next morning I got up to find there'd been a light snowfall, just kind of a dusting on the ground, like a confectionery sugar type dressing. And there's these little footprints coming up from underneath my trailer. And they're going across the lawn into this hole in the ground, about the size of a quarter. And I thought, aha, I gotcha. I know how to get rid of you. So I went to the tool shed, and I got the can of gasoline, and I poured a little bit in the hole, not very much. I put the gasoline out of the way, struck a match, and dropped it in the hole. And there was a little flame, maybe 6 inches high, poof up. And then, suddenly, this flame shot up into the air a good 10 foot. And I thought, uh-oh, because we're maybe 5 foot away from the end of my trailer, which has 2 big old propane tanks on it. And I could just see the whole thing going up in flames. So I'm kicking snow into that hole and I'm stomping around trying to put it out. And you could hear the rats running out the other side. And what was a little hole started to grow larger and larger and larger and larger until it got to be about 3 foot in diameter. Now, the farmer across the street had seen my streak of lightning in the sky there, and he came running over wanting to know what was going on, and I told him, and he says, well, I think you found your septic tank. So that's how I set my septic tank on fire. Thank you.